why are they suggesting they don't want you to make a right turn in the future?
Because of the
bikes.
incidents with bikes.
They're giving them too much. Too much.
Really?
The construction is
the
construction is year round, and now I gotta compete with bicycles.
That's
I'm not gonna lie.
part.
The right turn and a bicycle is the most like multiple choice option.
Would you like an e-receipt?
Ultimatum that you have to choose, because sometimes when you're about to drive and you see it hits the red light, right?
Right.
And now you're like, okay, and you see the bike person, and sometimes that bike person, I feel like they're doing it on purpose, but maybe not. They start speeding to try to like catch the light or something, and you're just like, bro, I'm about to make this right, because if I don't catch this right, I'm going to be gridlocked with the traffic going in, and I can't get this right again.
Right.
So it's either you or me.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
But that's playing chicken on road. That's actually
Play chicken on road. And then now, you hit the bike lane, and sometimes these bikers be like, these bikers be out of line. You cut them off, they're probably like lick off your bike and no know you're in traffic. They just box your
window,
your left mirror and run out and bike off, yo.
And you
You're
can't.
like, hey, and the man's already took off with you know.
I don't think I've seen
very
that.
Specific.
I don't think I've ever seen that. I've heard of that happening though, but
I don't understand. Like, I feel like it's dangerous for bikers. I do see some streets where they have the median where it's like one lane and bike. I think it's Bayview, near Bayview, somewhere there.
Mm-hmm.
One lane, a bike trail, a bike lane, and a walking lane. And I'm just like,
yeah, that's okay.
What buns me about that is I don't see anybody walking, and I barely see anybody biking. But I see a lot of traffic on that lane. So I'm like, what are you trying to tell me?
So I think the biggest trail in Toronto, I think whatever road they're crossing by, they're starting to put lights there now. So yeah, so you'll see the walk. It's safe to walk, and then you'll see it's safe to bike. So imagine you're biking, and you're just, for some of y'all, you're used to just ripping it, just boom, and then all of a sudden you have to stop now and be like, wait, I gotta wait for a red light now.
But some of them don't.
Some of them don't. They're just as bad on jaywalking.
Some of them don't even know their hand signals.
Oh, they don't do the.
They don't do the left. They don't do the right. Yeah.
Oh, I did it wrong. Hold on. You have to do this.
And then the stop and slow down. Hand is like
More
this.
people don't even have helmets on.
You guys are playing dangerous games with that. Ooh, no helmet?
You have no helmet on, and you're riding with no helmet.
Honestly, my first question is this. Why did we change bikes off sidewalks?
I mean,
you know what?
I think too many people got licked
Was there a law for bikes not to be on sidewalks? Is there a law? Because I would go on the sidewalk anytime, but I think it probably damages the bike.
There was a law. So they said that how the bike itself had to be of a specific diameter, the tire wheel. Because then if it was a certain like width, it had to be on the road. Because
really?
It was considered a racing bike.
Those funny rules. Oh, come on now.
I wasn't aware of that still.
But every other bike was okay on the sidewalk. Those were the only bikes that had to be on the road.
Oh, man.
But that was only because their gears are completely different from commercialized bikes. They are faster. Their gears are a lot, what's it called? They're softer. I used to have a racing bike, so that's the reason why I can tell you that.
Right.
Different, completely different. Like, from your commercial, okay, I'm going to go mountain bike and whatever, even your little street trick bike, completely different from a racer bike. You can pump 2 pumps, and that stuff will get you far.
Yeah. And the bike wheels are thinner, no? They're like thin, and they just...
Yes. But then, that's the other thing. They
2 pumps, you go far. That's
yeah, man. You'll be picking up speed in 2 seconds.
Just
like,
hit, and then you...
That did a sound effect. That did the sound effect.
And then boom.
But it looks terrible when those guys fall off their bike. It looks terrible when those guys fall off their bike. So when they fall, that bike just folds like a pretzel, and you see them just fly up. It just twirl.
It's bad.
At least the one on like in my area, at least they kind of go slow on the sidewalk. But the e-bike scooter people,
But why couldn't they just maximize the sidewalk then? Put one side for people to walk
You're,
and the other
you're
side for people to
asking,
bike.
you're asking for money that they don't want to pay.
I bet.
To expand the sidewalk a little
They're
bit, just
not,
curve 2
yo,
inches off, and
they
then just
can never do that because, yo, some of these cars need every inch. You know what I mean?
That's supposed. It's a spacing thing. Yeah, you can't
It's
just.
the car, it's the weather conditions like in the snow, it's these you know, the snow plows or whatever. You know, when they're tilted a certain way and they're blowing, so you take 2 inches off, it might be scratching the other side incoming cars.
That's actually a good point. Actually,
You know what I mean?
they know the math.
No,
So,
but they hire
but I
engineers.
mean,
They
if,
know.
you know, they're sending a lot of money to like war. I mean, I would think that they would, you know,
Be sending all
fix
this
their
money to go and
country.
fix their stuff.
You know what I mean?
Potholes is a scam.
But do we even have engineers here? You know what? Let me not.
We do have. I feel like we have engineers, but yo,
Do we hire
we
them?
have. Put it like this.
Do we hire engineers here? That's a very
No,
good question.
here's it. We hire engineers. We hire doctors. We hire different things. But there's this. I feel like there's a system. If you're the engineer that wants to stop potholes from happening, you are not getting hired
Okay.
because you're breaking the money on everybody. Everybody gotta eat. Everybody gotta eat.
Even though it
Sounds good,
It's detrimental.
but not everybody has to eat.
Not everyone.
You know what I mean? If you're the doctor that cures cancer, hey,
Nah, that's
I hope
$1
you-
trillion in treatment. You cut it into
Yo,
my profits. My
what?
profits.
So you're telling me my $30,000 chemotherapy machine we can't use anymore? You have a pill that kills it completely? Oh no, you gotta go, sir.
That's crazy. But then,
You gotta go,
you know
sir.
what?
It's greedy.
Because then that turnaround and that says in itself that we are a very sick country.
I mean,
Because
No,
if
we-
you're
I
gonna
mean,
be
as you
paying,
can tell.
yeah, if you're gonna be making and capitalizing off of people's sickness,
sadly, that's
Of course.
that is the thing though.
That's capitalism at its finest.
but why wouldn't you rather just have a better population that can act? Because it just goes back. Like if everybody's depressed,
I need my boats for next year,
what does
see,
that mean?
that-
You can still get your
but
boats
the
for
funny
next
thing-
year.
You see, that sounds
but I want a
good.
bigger one.
You
see,
can still get a bigger one.
No, I don't
see-
think you understand. I want a Titanic boat next year.
That is
But you see-
possible.
you see, it sounds good. It sounds great that, you know, we are the world and we have to do that. But,
They said we are the world.
you know, there's something called money. And I want more.
Yeah, obviously they want more. But think of it. If you ended up with more money, wouldn't you spend it?
Yes.
I mean,
Exactly. So like if everyone had a healthy ability and got more money, they would still spend it.
But I want more than the people that are spending it.
But you're still gonna get more. Because people
No.
would then be able to afford the actual Hermes bag that they so want.
the what?
Instead
Yeah.
Instead of stealing
But-
it.
The herb.
See, but that's the problem, Zakia. We have to make it special. If anybody can buy it, it makes it common.
That's
Oh.
that's not true.
If everybody buys a Honda, it makes it common. But not everybody can buy a Benz.
This is okay.
You know
this
what I
is
mean?
true.
Even though Honda's what you're supposed to get actually, because that's a durable
It's
machine.
what you're supposed to get.
But
yes,
why don't they
but
learn like the Supreme
you
way?
know what? There's a status in a Benz.
I mean,
There's a status in a Lamborghini.
Yeah.
Okay, terrible cars to maintain, but there's a status in it when you have one.
I hear you.
When it has one, you are above people. You know, if you have a Lamborghini, I would assume that you have a house with like acres of land.
Really?
know what I
You
mean?
think that assumption? Oh dear.
Well, the harsh reality is that's not the case. Most
and anymore, I
places.
mean, someone could be renting it,
It's a condo, maybe.
or
Right, but
They just have the
because
car.
you are able to at least have a Lamborghini, it says something about yourself. You know what I mean? And that's what people live. That's how people scam other people. I have a Lamborghini. Join my business.
that's. I mean, you said it. I was
That's
gonna,
how it works.
say it.
That's how it works.
And they could have rented that for the day.
They could have rented it for the day.
This is true. This is very true.
So, you know, in this sick, sad world, you know, it's not about fixing things. It's about temporary subscription-based fixing.
Yo,
You know?
okay.
Say subscription
no,
based, temporary subscription
no,
based.
I don't
okay.
have to. You don't need to buy cable. You buy. You don't need $50 of cable. No, you don't need $50, but you need $14 Netflix, $20 Crave, $20 Amazon Prime,
That's
And then when it's added up,
$10
it's like
Spotify.
$150.
By the time $150, yo, by the time you look, but you know what? We're not gonna make you pay it all at once. We don't want to kill you like a lion. We want to kill you like a snake.
Wow.
We want to poison you.
Wow.
We want
Okay.
to poison you a little bit. Let's just slowly break you down.
That's funny.
Nah. Sidebar about subscription. Like the whole like I think it was BMW or Mercedes, one of the two. They had to reverse car seat warming if the customer didn't pay for it, or
Yo, bro,
the right to repair. Like you can't repair your own thing. Like it's like
they're
it's
talking
stuff
about
like that. Like,
self-driving cars. That the self-driving car. Imagine if you didn't pay your car payment, the car could drive itself back to the dealership.
or just stop and just
Repo car. Could you imagine you didn't pay your bill? The car just says, you know what, reverses out the car, your driveway, and just drives off.
like that's pretty.
Hey, what the?
But the thing is though, because that's how close it is now. It's close as well flipping it, because someone can be like, they can just take a USB and just be like, all right, done.
Yes.
I can control this control. I can
Yes,
hack the
you
car. I can just drive it wherever I want.
That's crazy. So they holding on to you. That sounds like some slavery.
And yo,
You see it?
Sorry, I said that so loud.
but no, but like it really. That's what they're trying to move with it. Like
It's a harsh reality of just, you know, I don't know if it's capital. I don't know the right terms for the.
That doesn't seem like capitalism anymore.
I don't even know the word.
That sounds like
Because
slavery.
everybody's just trying to get. Everybody's
Monetary
just trying to
slavery.
win somehow, and some people have an ethical way, and some people have an unethical way. You know what I mean?
oh yeah.
And you have a choice. Do you want to go the right way, or you want to go the wrong way?
Well,
You know what I mean?
might as well go the wrong way to keep up.
That's wow. That's hey man. If you have to
mean-
question, you have to touch your toes to get something. Maybe you should reconsider.
And that's the thing.
Is that the
problem
only way
is-
though?
A lot of people
It's
are
not-
touching their toes to reach somewhere.
That's what I'm saying.
Really,
It's-
that's-
But I was
lot of
like,
people
is
are touching
that
their
is?
toes.
I don't even think people have to get that far to be even having to like compromise anything about.
but
themselves.
guys, some people
No.
some people don't want to work.
This is
But here's
true.
the problem.
And that's
Here's
what I'm
the
saying. That's the
problem, though.
compromise.
It
They'd
doesn't
rather
look
take the
like
paycheck and stay at home than to go into work. But then they realize that they're actually being limited on their ability, skill, development, and all the other stuff. That's the
But
compromise.
here's the thing. It doesn't look like compromise if everybody's doing it.
See, you see, hold on.
You see what I'm saying? It's
But-
one of those things. It's like, I know you're saying that, you know, it's this, but everybody does it. But everybody does it. Yeah. Everybody does it. So why is it compromise if everybody does it? You know what? You want to be the anomaly, you're the problem.
Wow.
Oh, you want to be different, huh?
You want
Oh,
I like that. Oh, you want to be different?
is that what you want to do? Okay.
Nah, man, that's wild still.
It's a sick, sad world nowadays. You know, there's no right turn anymore, I guess.
They want to consider that. Yeah, they don't want.
So where do
but let
we
me ask-
lobby? That's the question. Because I think that's the biggest part that a lot of people need to know and be familiar with. That even though they can put these things in bills and they can instate them and try to enforce them, there are places where you can be on the opposing side and argue against whatever it is that they have on that they're talking about or trying to actually like, put into place.
But you see, there's something called the power of propaganda. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And it's one of those things where, you know, you could be on the argument side, but because in this world nobody is perfect, right?
Absolutely.
So because in this world nobody is perfect, if someone can find something bad about you, like it's not gonna work when you try to like address certain situations. So let's say something like, "Hey guys, that's wrong. That's wrong." Well,
They
this
start-
last tweet you said you don't like people. So
Hold on.
based on the fact that you know,
Wait, hold on. Regarding this topic, it's on the sidebar really. But did you hear about how like they found out a Republican in the States, um, whatever he was standing for, they're like, oh really? And they started like, I wish I had keyboard sounds, but they were looking
is
him
this
up.
you?
Yeah,
Is
they
this
were,
you?
yeah, he got one of those, and then the guy he committed that. I'll just leave it like that, because he was
Just
out.
gotta go.
He was outed as like let's just say he wears everyone's clothes, and because they figured out he wears everyone's clothes, he's just like and then unfortunately
Gotta go.
wow. He left.
That's interesting.
That's
Even in saying that, that's very interesting.
that story was wild.
But here's the thing, now.
Whew, that's yeah.
Now, I always wondered
That's
this whole
very
concept when it comes to like life and people and society and stuff like this, right? When it comes to like, let's say, no one is perfect in this world, right? And let's say someone wants to stand firm on something that's not okay, right? And if everybody, like, let's say if this person decides to say, yo, I believe that this is wrong, guys. And then some people are like, yes, it's wrong. But then a group comes and says, yeah, you're saying it's wrong. But hey, back in the day, like, you did this. And it kind of just like, for example, I think about it sometimes, like with Martin Luther King and people like that. They were like, you know, yes, he's fighting for us. He's fighting for me. And he's like, but hey, you cheated on your wife. So how? You see what I'm saying? Are people gonna still start in social media days where people are just kicking people for the mistakes they did, like they can't change?
Right.
Does that change the dynamic when it comes to like things we consider as heroes or people like, you know what I mean? A lot of people, they call you hero when you're dead.
That's
you're nobody till somebody kills you type thing.
That's yeah. I mean,
I feel it's interesting because then it kind of makes people very monolithic. Like you don't have more than one part to you.
You're just like, oh.
You're just one dimensional. And it's like, okay, so he had issues with being faithful to his wife. All right. True. Someone who, especially being that he was a pastor, he was a Christian leader.
Right.
Though he could not be faithful and devoted to his wife, the one woman, he was very much devoted to the idea of race and political affairs.
Right.
That sounds good, but they could weaponize that to say, well, if you're not even good to your own wife, how we know you're weaponized to us?
That's
right. Understood. But sometimes people are dimensional. It could be easier for him to actually think about politics and segregation and laws and stuff than his wife. His wife could be complicated. And he can't figure that out. Right? Plus, she's a relationship versus a whole idea and practice and system.
Right.
That's so easy to say. But it's like, how is a woman complicated? Are you saying women are complicated?
No, but
no. But it's like two different things. Okay, here's one thing. You're great with your hands, sir.
Okay.
Right? And as good as you are with your hands, are you a great cook?
I cook to survive.
Right. But you see what I'm saying? As good as you are with your hands, you should be great with any skill that has to do with your hands, no?
I mean, that's what you would think, but that's not how the world goes.
Exactly. But that's what I'm saying. That's the one-dimensional thinking that I'm talking about. Just because you're good with one thing doesn't mean that you're going to be able to apply it to all things because of that one thing. No.
That makes sense.
It's multidimensional, right? People are multidimensional. As you said, they're not perfect. So why would we assume just because his faith and devotion to his wife would be easy, just like him running a whole congregation is easy?
That's the culture. This is what it is.
It's like all those people who say that.
Yeah, the weird example I was gonna say was how like Mr. Beast made those wells in like different parts of Africa.
Yes.
Yo, that thing is so crazy.
And people are just like
the opposition on that.
People are just like, you're building wells in Nambia and Zimbabwe and
Yo,
You know what's funny?
Congo.
for me,
Who
it
is
was
this guy?
no. It was honestly, it was the refute of so many people saying like, and especially a lot of people that I read in the comments, Africans themselves,
Oh wow, okay.
chastising and scrutinizing Mr. Beast for developing those wells.
Really? Wow.
They went on the idea or on the talking point that, oh, these white people want to be white saviors so badly and have this white savior complex. The other part was, oh, why are they praising this person when they don't even recognize that their own backyard needs help? Why don't you build the wells in your own place that you live in?
Ooh.
Right? Then the other was, oh, as an African, they were just like shutting it down. They're like, as an African, they just want to constantly have this propaganda of somebody coming in and showing the worst parts, and I put quote unquote, worst parts of Africa, and only making it seem as if that's the only way Africa looks.
Like the whole
continent looks like this.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Because if you're putting 100 wells, that's a large amount of wells to be developing.
Yeah.
Right? And then that's, to me, I would think that, oh, how much space is that per se? So
I mean, Africa's big as F.
it is big. So that's the other thing. A lot of people don't know the ratio as to how big Africa is.
You can fit China and like 2 other big countries in there.
Yes.
Like that's how big it is.
Yes. But then the other argument then stands. You're upset about this white guy coming in and doing a public service, because the other side of it was like, oh, this guy's doing an act of humanity. We should just recognize that and say it takes a lot for somebody to even do that act. Period.
Okay.
Right? For the Africans. Why didn't you go build 100 wells yet?
Wow, that's...
You came into a modern society, and I put quotes around modern society, first world country, you figured it out, had your education, learn and live and everything. Why didn't you go back and dig up the ground?
Let's hold on. Let me I'll kind of interject a little bit before it gets hot.
Okay.
But the first person I've heard of that was doing wells,
Akon.
and shout out to him.
Okay.
Bizzle. He was a rapper named Bizzle.
Okay.
I know he did wells before Mr. Beast, like years. He had this whole album called Well Wishes, and literally it was like the money from the album goes straight to like the wells that he's building in Africa. I think it was like Mozambique or some other places, right?
Okay, cool.
And he showed that they made the wells. He did the wells and all that stuff. And I thought that was great. Like, that's a great thing to do. Like, I don't really care about, like, I'm happy that he does some things. Like Mr. Beast, like he does his whole, yeah, we're going to do the wells. Like, yeah, okay, cool. Sounds all great. I don't really care. Like, I don't believe, like, if, someone has to do it. You know what I mean?
Hold on. Let me just poke a tire a second. In one of the comments, they said he built that, Mr. Beast. He built the wells before Akon. I just want to throw that in there.
Well, Akon brought light into. Well, Akon brought light to Senegal, so that's the problem.
Light.
It's like that's when you start putting things. Woo! That one is.
And that was what I read in the comments.
Oh dear.
They're like, how is this guy coming in and building, and then Akon?
This man turned on the light, and they sat in that room, starving and thirsty.
You should have collabed.
But they could see each other starving.
Should have collabed with Sean Paul. We're just give me the light. We're just giving the light.
Wow.
We're gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them.
Yes.
Wow, that's.
So, but here's my thing. I think I don't see nothing wrong with what Mr. Beast did. I'll say that personally. But I do believe there's this whole thing, like this whole white savior thing, and I understand that. I mean, there is a thing. I mean, they even try to say Jesus was white. Boy, were they wrong. And I don't really know how to go about that type of concept. Like when you hear this, I'm like, ooh, like what is he supposed to do? Like all his money goes back into this, you know what I mean? This humanitarian thing, And what's wrong with that type of good content?
But
you know what I mean?
I don't know. It was weird. He got. There's been something bubbling up with him I wish I can pinpoint the exact like
And can I strike a nerve a little bit?
year, but like when he did that, everyone's just like,
They
But
looked at him sideways.
let me
yeah,
Yeah.
looked
strike
at
a
him
nerve a little
sideways,
bit.
like,
Can I strike a little nerve?
okay,
You know, what about the rappers and the artists that be like, shitting on what you don't have? Are they doing this?
Some of them are. That's the thing. It's just not broadcast. A lot of people.
And I think they need to broadcast it.
And that's
they
the
need
part.
to promote the broadcast.
That's
They
the
need to
part.
I
broadcast
think
it.
Jay-Z did something like that.
Yeah, a lot of them. Beyonce went to Africa. I think she did a whole tour in Africa, but I don't know if she developed anything. I don't know if she actually did
The last
anything
person
like.
I remember they talked about that did something in Africa was Oprah, and that did not end well. Allegedly,
yes, but
The only thing I know is that she adopted, and she brought them to America, got them educated, everything like that, and they're actually going back to go and develop stuff.
oh, cool.
So she has, I think it's like her something daughters. That's what it is. But she adopted these girls.
But didn't you hear like the whole backlash about the girls talking about the school and how bad it was and all these things that were happening in the school?
Yeah, I've heard about that too. Yeah,
And then the problem is, and this is the thing about like certain things, because sometimes I feel like it's like, damn if you do, damn if you don't sometimes. Because it's like, you'll hear situations like this happen, and then you'll hear, oh, some type of controversy. You don't even know if it's true anymore. Like,
right.
I'm tired.
I mean, it probably is true, right? Like, it just depends on what side of the story you're on. Are you the person who is giving or receiving, right? Because, like, say, for example, those girls from Africa, if they didn't have a really great school experience, I mean, one thing that's going to definitely be impacting them is culture shock. Right off the bat. Right? And then on top of it, when you start learning about like how prime example of practice, when the colonial people took Aboriginal kids from their families and brought them into colonial practices.
Right.
Cut their hair, cut them from their culture, cut them from their beliefs, their spirituality, and then started integrating them into this so they would assimilate into this like new context of life. If them learning that context, wouldn't they think that that's them? That would be a very hard thing to digest.
Wouldn't they think that's them?
They came from Africa. And then now this woman, though she's black, comes and brings me to Western society to teach me Western values, Western ways, and a little bit lose my culture to adapt into Western, because Western life is better life.
Yeah, quote unquote, yeah.
So they say.
Right?
So they say.
Of course, that whole transfer over is going to be a very hard transfer.
Yeah.
You're dealing with people who had running water their whole life and they don't know how to wash their hands properly.
That's you know what?
Yo.
That you know what? That is an interesting take. Because you know what? There's a lot of people that don't know how to wash their hands and they have water for days.
Yeah.
Fresh water.
Mm-hmm.
Fresh water.
That would be wow.
I don't know how many times we started this whole wash your hands campaign.
But it's good that we do that though, because like it has to be
don't
said.
Wash their hands.
Well, I think recently some guy like, as I'm walking in, just kind of finished the urinal and he did the penguin shuffle out, and I was like, and then under my breath, but not under my breath, I was like, hey.
And that's the worst, because they were like, hey, did you wash your hands? Huh? Did you wash your hands?
Like that's
funny.
And then it's like, it's just awkward now, because it's like, what, I was supposed to tell you to wash your hands? Like, I was supposed to tell you? Like
come on now.
You just didn't know for yourself?